Hello and welcome to the Unpublished Writers Club, the podcast for aspiring authors, writing enthusiasts, or any creative out there. Whether you're at the start of your writing journey, in the process of being published, or just someone curious, everyone here has a place to connect, engage, and perhaps learn a thing or two. I'm your host Zia, a recent university graduate who, over the past 6 years, has been learning, failing, and putting themselves out there for the sake of making a career out of writing. And so, while I'm still at the start of my writing journey, I thought I'd bring you all along with me to share what I've learnt, and I'm in the process of learning, to help make your navigation of this journey just a little bit easier. And I have to apologize because this episode, I am a little bit sick, so I hope I sound okay. And I really apologize if not. This episode, I'm unpacking a topic that has been all the rage, and I'm actually a little bit late to it, but that is on purpose. The topic is AI and the future of writing, and it has been a big discussion in the industry, in all aspects of the industry, not just when it comes to writing. And the reason why I wanted to come in a bit later is because when things happen, when news first breaks, it does get very intense, very overwhelming. We are hit with a lot of information at once, a lot of assumptions and potential trajectories, as well as just big headlines and just honestly a little bit of mass hysteria. And to be fair, a lot of it is valid and based in something true. However, I don't think we need it to get as crazy as it does get. And so now the waters are sort of calmed a little bit more. I'm coming to step in to discuss it and share my thoughts on it, share what I've learned about it, and what I'm really liking seeing from the industry in regards to it. Before we get into the episode, I did want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connection to the land, sea, and community. As the original and enduring storytellers, I wish to extend my respect to their elders, past and present, as well as extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders listening today. Now, let's get into it. First up, I do have a writing update, and that is that I finished my first draft read through, and I do have now a total of 555 comments within my manuscript. And then I also have about 14 pages worth of big story notes, and that is anything from big storylines that I have to change, or specific character elements to alter, or just general plans and ideas that I've come up with through the read through. And I can't believe it's gotten that big, but I'm so excited about it. I have started on the second draft. Most recently, I've actually fractured the story. I have taken out different chapters and elements that I don't like anymore and will not be going into the second draft. I've moved different plot points around as well, and I've also added in different scenes to be able to incorporate and write soon. So next up, what I'm planning to do is plan more. I really want to lock in the story of this draft. I don't know if that's actually going to end up being the final story, so then I can get to writing it. Not a complete rewrite, but there's a lot of chapters, a lot of scenes to add in, a lot of plot points that I've taken away, and so I've got to tidy up a lot of things, but I really am looking forward to it. I'm going to state right off the bat that there are so many different elements to discuss when it comes to AI as a whole and its place in the world and its pros and its cons, especially from an ethical and sustainable point of view. I don't want to ignore them or push them under the rug or anything like that. However, for this discussion, they aren't so topical for the sake of writing and the industry itself. And so, however you feel about AI, however I feel about AI, I will be putting it all aside, and I really do want to look into how AI specifically is impacting and potentially will impact the industry of writing and publishing, and where the future leads for us creators and writers, because it is a big question. It did come in very quickly as something that can write incredibly clear and potentially impactful and just sort of perfect things very quickly. And that is kind of the opposite of us, as I just mentioned in my writing updates. The reason why I need to do writing updates is because it takes time. It is tricky to do. The only way that I can present a work that is well written is through failing all of these times beforehand and continually making it just a little bit better, and using those small increments of success, even if I've also then had to get rid of a lot of other things, to be able to create something better. And so obviously at the start I was concerned when it first came in, especially because of how easily people had access to it. It wasn't just a tool that those with potentially a lot of money have, or a tool in which you could learn and have to do a course to be able to get. It is truly something that anyone who has a web browser can access right now. And that could be someone who is a professional, who has been in the industry for a long time, or it could be a 12-year-old, so there is not a lot of regulation on who can use it and how they can use it, and that is always an intimidating factor no matter what it is for. Because I found out that I could turn around, look in my web browser and just ask it to write me a story with these elements and have that happen so quickly, my gosh, who wouldn't be intimidated? Storytelling itself is so intrinsically tied to the human experience. No matter the time and place that we are in, it is throughout all cultures, it is throughout all of history. It is such a beautiful aspect of us as humans that sometimes it's not even the finished work that we want. It's the reassuring elements of the book. It's the aspects that we wholeheartedly relate to. It's the realization that you aren't alone. There are true moments of the human experience that we actually can seek relief from in reading books. Because even though it might be a safe space between you and the pages of a book, there is actually someone behind it who has written it and who has understood exactly where you've been or what you're feeling. And there are so many other people like you holding that book themselves who can support you through it too. And together, even if you never speak, even if you never cross paths at all, you're all growing together and working on something together, or just experiencing something together. And I think that is truly beautiful. One big thing that popped up when it came to AI and writing as well was the fact that I actually love the construction of books. I love understanding how it got to where it is. I love knowing about the themes an author chose and why they chose them, because a lot of the times they might actually relate to what an author knows and has experienced themselves. So aspects of the writing industry, such as writing festivals or even podcasts, they are like gold to me. And I was realizing that with AI, those sorts of elements would no longer be possible. If someone's written a book via AI, they can't turn around and sit down at a panel and tell you about all the reasons why they put in the effort. They can't tell you why they needed to add in this element or how a story was shaped the way it was, potentially without their choice, because it was truly all in their own subconscious. And that is because they haven't had those experiences. And it is also so reassuring to be able to hear from the authors themselves and have them say that they are just like the rest of us, that no matter how prolific or well-known they are, they have to struggle to put that book in your hands, because there are times where they might have given up, or they thought they were imposters, or just that the concept itself wouldn't be good on a mass scale. And sometimes it's hearing that journey, which may start when they first started writing the book that you ended up reading, or it might be the journey that started years beforehand in a whole different time and space where they were experiencing and learning and failing and growing themselves to be able to write something that you ended up reading all this time later, especially in times that we may have never existed ourselves or places where we've never been. That's the heart of the book itself. And it is this general mindset that AI can't replace. It cannot have that same motivation to share a story that either they needed to hear themselves or that they think the world needs to hear. It cannot have the ambition to help people or the drive to keep going even when it's really struggling to put even one simple sentence together. It can certainly try, it can steal other people's stories, it can try and find formulas or trends or different aspects that they know we can relate to, or they've been taught that we relate to. But at the end of the day, it does not have our crazy beautiful human heart, and it doesn't have a relatable catalyst or a journey. It just has the moment that we ask it something and then the output not too long after. If those are things that you don't care about, you're fine no matter what happens to the industry. But for those of us who do care about those things, I think we are going to be okay. It's been interesting taking the time as well to see what the industry is doing, to have heard about it from my classes in university, to be hearing about it from authors and different professionals within both the publishing industry and then also the AI industry as well. And realize that potentially it's, in some ways, changed the way we exist forevermore. And in other ways, it has been way too overhyped. And what I mean by that is we can't get away from it. At this point in time, it is pretty much embedded in everything. It is within Word documents. It is within Grammarly. It is in our Safari, in the AI overview, pretty much no matter what you ask. But at the same time, I think we've had similar things like this happen before. I wasn't really a conscious person pre-internet, but I have a feeling it is similar, that they had this big phenomenon that sort of redeveloped how we looked at information and finding things or even communicating with each other. And that was scary. And yet that is all we know now. And so what I assume is that instead of this being a life-altering aspect in the sense that none of us are going to be able to write again and have that hold the same value as it used to, it's just going to give us different choices, different abilities, and we can technically still live without it. Because it is still so new, it's also really tricky because it is not regulated. As I mentioned before, absolutely anyone who has a search bar has access to some form of AI. There are somewhat limits on what you can ask of it, depending on which resource of AI you're using. And if there's anything I'm concerned about, it is that element. It has been seen a lot when it comes to authors already. They have had their work stolen and used to train AI without them giving consent. And because of this lack of regulation, I would be cautious of what information I am giving it. So if this is something that does matter to you, I would say potentially wait until there are more regulations that you are comfortable with to be able to then use it if that is your wish. If you don't, if you want to be doing more, there are plenty of petitions going around that you can either sign or send if they aren't specifically for you to be able to sign, to be able to raise awareness for on different elements like regulations. And again, if it truly matters, there are plenty of authors out there who are actively sharing that they do not care for AI. And it is those authors that you should be reading and sharing and supporting, because they are the ones that obviously aren't going to be using it and are hopefully going to be making continued noise until changes are made. It should also be mentioned that in a lot of ways, it is putting many people in the industry out of business. For example, when it comes to editors, initially I was thinking, oh, it's great, you can create the work yourself, put it in there, ask it to edit it for you. Why would you do that when there are people whose livelihoods, whose training is all based in them editing your books? It costs a lot more. It may not be attainable for a lot of us, but if you have the ability to, if you are getting your work up to that level to be published that it needs an editor, you aren't going to slap it into an AI. The same can be said for artists, especially if we are using AI generators to be able to generate images of our work, potentially to share online, to get interest in. It means that there are so many incredibly talented people who are no longer having their work valued, or are having to diminish their prices or showcase even more so how they are doing their work to be able to be seen as true artists rather than potential AI users. And so if you are people in those different aspects of the industry rather than the writing side, know that your work is still so important and that there are so many people out there who do still value your work and who need it. Because everything that I've said about AI in terms of writing can be said about art or editing or managing or just all the other aspects of the industry that are required to be able to put a book on shelves. In response to some of the controversy, as I mentioned, authors have been having their books stolen. I've been finding it incredible that big publishing houses have actually been making the moves to sue different AI companies. This is for different copyright reasons, or publishing houses are trying to create new copyright capabilities to be able to protect against AI. And what I found on the other side of publishing houses is that when going to submit manuscripts to either publishers or agents, they are now starting to get you to check a box to say that there has not been any AI used in that work. And when I first saw that, it was a big relief to realize that different industry people, big industry people and true industry companies want work, this human work, to stay human work. And so it's been interesting seeing which publishing houses are more lenient when it comes to those sorts of aspects, those who absolutely don't want a bar of it. And again, wherever you are on the spectrum of using AI in your work and in your writing, there will be probably different people and houses and options that align with your values as well. But the fact that I am seeing that we are able to have options, that it's not all, yes, AI is now part of this game, you have to use it, otherwise there's a chance you might not be able to keep up. That is not the case. What publishing houses and different industry professionals have been using AI for, however, are more back-end tools. And this is where I think that we can be taking inspiration from should we want to be using AI. Instead of using it to develop your entire work, you can be using it to analyze your reach and audience and understand what they are asking of you and what is doing well. You can use it to create different content ideas to be able to promote your work and your story. You can even be using it for research. If you are going through potentially big books, big textbooks of information that relate to your work and where you want to go, put it into an AI generator and ask it to summarize it, or ask it to take out different elements that you think is best for your work. That way you can get inspiration for different things that may happen, or different motivations behind things, or whatever you want to use it for. However, I must say this and have a caveat here that in a way, I do think you using it as a tool, if you're not learning how to use it 100% effectively, it is not going to be helpful in the same way that you putting in the effort to go through these different things, such as researching, would be if you were to do it yourself. And what I mean by that is, as I'm going through planning and researching processes now, I know that it is so easy to fall down rabbit holes, to scroll through so many different websites and turn through different books and just spend hours upon hours of research and not find what you're looking for. However, there is a beauty in that too, and that still going through it yourself, still putting in that time and that effort, different inspiration may come. Instead of asking an AI platform to be able to find you information that you need and getting it very quickly, sounds amazing, sounds effective sometimes, but it cannot give you then another avenue that you hadn't considered before. It cannot give you potentially the actual answer that you're looking for, but you didn't realize yourself. And so I think if you are using it, learn how to use it appropriately and effectively in a way that aligns with your values, but also remember that it is the process, it is a journey, and that sometimes you yourself don't actually know what you need until you stumble upon it hours into researching something completely different. So for those of us who aren't wanting to use it, let me tell you really quickly that you're not alone. You're not going to be left behind. In fact, there seems to be a bit more of a shift towards not using AI, especially when it comes to sharing your work and your content creation. There seems to already be a bit more consumer demand for finding out processes of how books are made. For example, instead of in the past when an author just created a book, they presented it out there, people were happy, audiences now want to see how an author created their work, the inspiration behind it, how they went through chapter by chapter. And that's not just for those of us who want to replicate that process to be able to be published ourselves. It is truly for readers to get a better grasp on the concept, on the world that they might be in, or on the purpose behind the book. And I think that is a very beautiful thing to see. And so potentially lifetime updates of books, even if they're not completely ready, but just to have receipts of you creating this piece is really handy, as well as building that base that knows where you stand from the get-go. And so in today's day and age, it's not just about getting a book out as quickly as possible. There are those who have always throughout history being able to whip out a book within a couple months, and even today that is kind of unheard of and crazy, but if that's what they're able to do, oh my gosh, good for them. But a lot of the time, one book takes years to be able to write and publish. And honestly, having a perfect book is not the end goal. Delivering a book that you are proud of and that people can relate to and grow from, that's the beautiful thing about it. In fact, I guess technically, thanks to AI and different resources out there, we can publish a book right now pretty quickly. Whether that's one that you write yourself or not, you can get all the aspects that you need to publish a book within a few hours and have it sorted. You can write the book or get it to write the book. You could get it to generate you some art. You can put it online as an ebook and boom, done. You're pretty much a published author. But is that actually what you want? For me, I personally will not be using AI in my work. I have been in this game for longer than AI has been around, and it is something that I love to be able to put in the time and effort, even if it drives me crazy sometimes. But it is the journey and process itself that I want, rather than the thought of being published or having something under my name. And if I get published, I want to be using that opportunity to support people with dreams like mine, to be able to be not the only one being lifted, but to lift other people up too. And so instead of using AI to be able to edit my manuscript or generate the cover art for, I want to be bringing in the people who are similar to me, who've been working hard, who have these dreams, and have an editor who is a real person who I can discuss the ideas with, who I can grow and learn from, have an artist who I get to talk to, who creates something that I couldn't even fathom myself, even if I tried to generate it. Because right now we are all training, we are all putting in the effort, we are all working hard to make this into our livelihoods. So I want to be not only working with but paying these people to show them that their work is still valued, no matter how slow it is, and that it is the aspects of the human connection from every single one of us that creates an incredibly beautiful and strong and resonating book in the end. I hope this has not been just one crazy event, and that you've managed to get something from it, or potentially a new perspective from. But if there is one takeaway that you're getting from this, I think it is to reflect on what you want, on what your purpose in writing is, and to act in accordance to those values. Every option technically has validity and a future, but also make sure that you're educating yourself on different perspectives, on all the different ways that you can be using these upcoming tools, but also cherishing what stands today and the history that this industry is built on. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, the quality of your work is not actually based on its perfection. However you choose to utilize AI in your writing journey, I wish you the best. And I'll be back next time with another episode of the Unpublished Writers Club. until then, feel free to drop any questions you have below, and make sure that you follow me on Instagram, where we have the Unpublished Writers Club. It's a resource that is more weekly content, and we are building a community there to interact with a bit more than on this podcast. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.